that. Because it says here, the last of the human freedoms to choose one's own attitude in a given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. So whatever can be done to you, people can take your freedom, they can take a lot of things, they can break your heart. There's a lot of things people can do to each other. Just last night, I fell asleep. The TV was on downstairs and I could hear Donald Trump. And it was pretty hateful stuff. And I fell asleep because I was exhausted. And then when I woke up this morning, it was the first thing that came to my mind was the hateful things he was saying. That every undocumented immigrant is a murderer, a criminal. And I was horrified, but it haunted me all night. So even though I was exhausted and fell asleep, it was in my head this morning. Hatefulness gets votes. Hatefulness makes people bond together against the common enemy that they hate. And we all can be victims of it. It depends which place we're in at any given time. We can turn in a heartbeat from being a part of the group that's doing the hating to being the one that's hated. That's important to know. And with no more ado, I am going to introduce to you Sami Stiegmann, survivor of many, many things, including the Holocaust, who can enlighten us all about life. And so, Sami, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Very happy, very proud to be here. Very honored. I want to expand on what Mrs. Weintraub has said. And I will repeat it one more time, probably later. But I want you to know one thing. I went through a lot of obstacles, challenges in life. I have been hurt. I've been betrayed. But I am not defined by what happened to me. I am defined by what I choose to be. So everything that you do is a choice. And hopefully learning from me today and from other people, and sometimes from your parents, because there will be nobody else that loves you as much as your parents, even if you don't like them at certain times. And believe it or not, all they want for them and for you not to go some of the bad experiences they went through. So you're not the only one. Sometimes we don't listen to our own parents. When somebody else says it, it's more acceptable. But trust me, there will be nobody else in your life that will love you as much as your own parents. I want to be remembered as follows. First of all, as a victim, but not just a victim of the Holocaust. Because if I do that, I ignore the other things that happened in my life and what happened to me. I was also a victim of discrimination, anti-Semitism, and betrayal. I also want to be remembered as a survivor. But not just as a survivor of the Holocaust. Very important, but that's not all. I have also survived many challenges, many obstacles in life. I'm going to give you two examples, and both examples I want to give you because I want you to learn a couple of things. Number one, I want to show you how open I am. And I also want you to feel comfortable to ask any questions that you have on any subject. If you don't know, okay, ask. If you don't ask, you will not know. Given a first example, in 1996, at age 57, I became homeless. Yet look at me today. I live in Manhattan. Okay, as you probably know, it's a very expensive area to live. I live in Midtown Manhattan. $1,216 a month. And I still smile. How? How can I be so optimistic? How come nothing is wrong in my life? It's terrible, right? Another thing, for instance, what happened to me that I had to overcome is I know there are other people that carry my name. I have no idea whether we are related or not. But I know that I have a son, the only one, that carries my family name. I have 2 grandchildren. And my son does not allow me to be in touch with them. How do you deal with it? How can you still be optimistic? How come you're not a destroyed man? We'll talk more about it. I also want to be remembered as a moral witness. With everything that I went through, I belong to 2 generations, Holocaust survivor, but also child of Holocaust survivors. When I use the word child of Holocaust survivors, it means that both of my parents survived. If I would use the word child of Holocaust survivor, it means that only one parent survived. All 3 of us were in a labor camp. Labor camp was considered by many to be a slave in those days a privilege. It was a privilege because it meant that you're not going to be killed right away. Probably was not as bad as in the concentration camps and other camps. However, I do not want you to think that being a slave in a labor camp was a thing. People were beaten to death, worked to death, starved to death, and died of disease. There was no medical care. Personally, I do not like to generalize. It depended what the camp was, which country, the type of the camp, who was the commander, who were the guards, how old you were, how strong you were you willing to take chances? So there were many, many variables. But I'll give you an example what you had to endure in a labor camp. For breakfast, they gave you a slice of bread and you had to work a half a day. For lunch, they gave you another slice of bread and you had to work for the rest of the day. And in the evening, if you were lucky, they gave you soup. But it's not soup what you think. It was mostly water and salt. And salt makes you more thirsty. In certain camps, again, I'm not generalizing, but in certain camps, you had to survive on 200 calories a day. If you don't know what 200 calories a day is, it's an ice cream cone. People were willing to endure all of these things. And some of them became animals because the only thing they did, they were walking skeletons. The only thing that was in their mind is to survive. And the only thing that kept them alive, instead of committing suicide, was the strongest emotion that a human being has. Anybody knows what the emotion is? No? Yes? Is it hope? Hope. Don't ever lose hope. Don't ever give up. However, okay, and that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to survive. They wanted to tell the world what happened, what happened. They wanted to know who else from their families survived, neighbors. By the way, what is the strongest emotion that unites people? And Mrs. Weintraub used that word. Yes? Hate. Hate. Okay? Take a look even today when you have ISIS. What unites them? It's hatred, because other people, whether it's Christians, whether it's Muslim, they don't believe in the ideology of ISIS. And that unites them. Because I belong to two generations, I felt that I don't belong to either one of them for 63 years. Holocaust survivors, this is my parents' generation, they remember things, okay? They went through a lot more than I went through, okay? I felt I don't belong to them. I felt I don't belong to the children of the Holocaust survivors because they were born after the war, like my sister in 1946. Their outlook in life was totally different than mine. When I spoke for the first time, since I do not remember what happened to me during those days when I was in a camp, I was talking about feelings. And I realized a couple of things that, for me, I took it for granted. That was my life. I didn't know anything else. I didn't think of it as a sacrifice. But I was an emotional parent to my parents. No child should be that. Which means, an emotional parent, if my parents needed to go somewhere, they wanted me to be with them. As a support, I would give up my friends. My sister, being a different generation, she said, you go on your own, I'm going to be with my friends. Same household, same love, no difference. I also found out, for instance, something about my parents that I did not know, especially my father. He was a benevolent dictator. Things had to be done this way. But when I'm saying benevolent, he also knew when to give in. My mother was an uneducated person. My grandfather did not allow her to go to school. She had to stay home and help to provide for the family. Yet, right now I'm addressing the young ladies. You will have somebody significant in your life, whether it's a boyfriend, whether it's a husband, whatever. You are not going to change them, like my ex tried to change me. All you can do is to change their perspective in life. They have to make the change. My mother, an uneducated person, dealing with a dictator, was able to get everything she wanted from him, willingly. But she did it with the right tone, at the right place, okay, at the right time. So learn from that, and boy, you will have the other person on a picket, okay, rig around, doing whatever you want. Interestingly enough, in November 1st and November 2nd of 2003, the Holocaust Museum of Washington, D.C. closed its doors to the general public. For 2 days, it opened it up only to the Holocaust survivors, their children, and their liberators. Let me ask you a question. Do you believe in coincidence, or it was meant to be? It cannot be both. Meant to be. How about you? Coincidence. Very good. We have difference of opinion. I love it. For most of my life, I also believe in coincidence. But so many things have happened that I started to believe that it was meant to be. And it started with November 1st and November 2nd. Here it is. Over 8,000 people from all over the world. And at the table where I'm sitting, a young man, my age, born in the same city, been in the same camp, the same years. He was taken when he was 8 months old. I was taken when I was a year and a half. For the first time I could breathe, I met somebody like me. I could share some experiences. And I felt I belonged to both generations. I didn't do anything until 2007, when I joined the Holocaust Museum in Lower Manhattan. And in 2008, I made my first presentation to 6th graders. In addition of saying thank you, they sent me thank you letters. And because of this young girl, okay, my life has changed. As much as you will learn from me, I learn a lot from you too. This young girl wrote, "Your story was overwhelming, and I promise I'll pass your story to my children." It was my first presentation. I did not know what I have to say, how I'm going to say it, and I did not know that I had such an impact on young people. You would be surprised, but you would think that we were taken by the Germans, and that's incorrect. We were taken by the Romanians. That's where I grew up. There were Western Ukraine was divided between two countries, Poland. The area, was called Galicia, and in Romania it was divided in two areas, Basarabia and Bukovina, and I was born, in Bukovina. And we were taken to labor camps and ghettos in an area of Ukraine. I will show you a map in an area called Transnistria. And on the way, just on the way, 2/3 of the people perished. I do not want you to think that the Nazis were the only bastards. So were the Hungarians, so were the Italians, so were the French, so were the Poles, so were the Ukrainians, so were the Romanians. In every war there are acts of sabotage, and reprisal for an act of sabotage. The Romanian troops rounded up 19,000 Jews from Odessa, Ukraine, brought them into Noble Plaza, and burned them alive. We will never know the extent of what happened during those days. We will never understand the inhumanity of men towards men. I'm going to show you the map, but so to teach you a little bit of world geography. But also what I want you to do is to learn not to stereotype. As you can see, I was born in Chernowoods. There was part, like I told you, Bukovina. We were taken in an area of Ukraine called Transnistria, where the camp was called Mogil. Officially, I was born in 3 different countries. How? How was it possible for me to be born in 3 different countries?
Because you changed.
Correct. I was born, in a city that belonged to former Austro-Hungarian Empire. The border shifted. So as the border shifted, in my passport it said I was born in different countries. So when I was born, Chernowoods belonged to Romania. Later it became part of the former Soviet Union. When the former Soviet Union split up in 1991, today my passport it says that I was born in Ukraine. After the war, the Soviets allowed approximately 3,000 Jews to go back to the country of origin. My father was born in Romania proper, and we settled in an area here, in an area that you probably are familiar with. You've seen many movies, in an area called Transylvania. So I'm not really a nice person. Everything that I'm going to show you here in white, including this area, is Romania. But I do not want you to stereotype, because take a look. The bordering countries are Bulgaria, Serbia, Croatia, Hungary, Slovakia, and Ukraine. Jewish people live there. But if I'm going to visit Bulgaria, I have nothing in common with the Jewish people in Bulgaria. We observe the same holidays, we believe the same things, maybe, okay, but we have nothing in common. They have adapted to the Bulgarian culture, the dances are different, the music is different that they listen to, the food is different, okay? But being Jewish, in addition to visiting the country, I want to visit Jewish sites, and I want to visit and meet Jewish people to see how they live. But I want to teach you about tolerance. And tolerance is accepting other people's opinion, other people's culture. When I lived in Romania, they called me a Jew. When I lived in Israel, they called me Romanian. In the United States, they called me Israeli. Guess what? I am not a Romanian American. I am not Jewish American. I am not an Israeli American. I decided to live here. I am an American. Okay? As when I use the word American, that unites. When I use Jewish American, Italian American, French American, okay, that divides. It's us versus them. And I like to think of us as one people. Okay, if I would go back to Israel, I would be in Israel. Okay? You don't, and again, I'm going to rephrase it. You don't have to agree with me, but you have to accept that I have a different opinion. Okay, and respect. As I was homeless, I have very few pictures. The pictures I'm going to show you are the only pictures that I donated to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C., and to the Holocaust Museum in Israel, which is called Yad Vashem. I want to talk just for a second about my grandmother. Everybody today, you know, especially women, spend a fortune in trying to become thin. But you know, society changes with time. At one time, okay, if you were a little bit larger, that was a sign of prosperity. Not that my grandparents were wealthy, but okay, you associated being a little bit larger with prosperity. My parents, Holocaust survivors. Whether you like or you did not like at one time, or do not like today, or maybe tomorrow, one of your parents, remember one thing. You have both of their genes, whether you like it or you don't. Now, give you an example, a personal example. I haven't seen my son for over 20 years. I met him in New York. I met one time my grandchildren. But I invited them to my place, and although I haven't seen him for over 20 years, and he is exactly his mother, which is not surprising, he lived with her. I was surprised when I found out that all his likes and dislikes are mine. So believe it that you have both of the genes of both of your parents. I took my confidence from my father, my sensitivity from my mother. My father was an orphan of both of his parents. My grandfather died before he was born. I'm able to take care of 8 children. Okay, my grandmother took the 2 youngest ones and decided to commit suicide. A stranger saved the children, but my grandmother did commit suicide, and my father grew up in an orphanage in Vienna, Austria. At age 13, he was thrown out on the street. He became streetwise, and it helped him not only to survive during the darkest days in human history, but also after the war, when food was very scarce and everything was in the black market. If you don't know what black market means, is that if my father wanted to buy a loaf of bread, he had to know somebody and to bribe somebody, in the store to get the loaf of bread. And my father, being streetwise, he knew how to provide for the family. My mother, like I told you, was an uneducated person because she had to stay home, would not go to school, and had to help to provide for them. 1939, yours truly was born. Take a look at this guy. Take a look at me. No change. Don't you dare tell me that I changed. It is one difference. What's the difference? I have a neck. Where's my neck? I was a chubby little boy. Okay. During those days, everybody smoked. I was 6.5 years old. To make me look like a big boy, my father put a cigarette in my hand. My sister, as you can see, she was born in 1946. She's just a child of Holocaust survivors. Okay? And I belong to a religious Zionist organization. Zionist means that we believe that Palestine, Israel was our country, and we wanted to go there before the formation of the state of Israel. And the whitest and ugliest kid on the block, that's me, yours truly. I think that, what's his name, Spock, he took his ears from me. Take a look at the big ears in my hand. I have only two pictures, my uncle and my aunt who were murdered in Auschwitz, and only two brothers who approximately 42 survived. My uncle was not a survivor, he was a refugee. The only country that was willing to accept him, to let him in, were the Chinese. And they settled in Shanghai. Interestingly enough, the Chinese were able to save approximately 25,000 Jews. Unfortunately, in 1941, they were attacked and occupied by the Japanese, and they could not save any more Jews. My uncle stayed there until the communists came. When Mao Zedong came to power, he went to Israel because he spoke English. He worked for the American embassy. And in 1952, he came to the United States, to Santa Barbara, and the two brothers met each other for the first time in 47 years. My story is just a story. You may forget it. Every survivor has a story. Together, it makes the Holocaust. I need a volunteer. Your name?
Brianna.
Brianna. Brianna, you have a very difficult task. And you will have to explain to them, not to repeat, but to explain to them what I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
What will happen if you don't know?
I'll say I don't know.
Very good, I like that answer, because you don't know everything. And I'm actually going to teach you, and I guarantee you that most of them don't know it either.
Okay.
I am first cousin, okay, twice removed with Carlos Schultz.
Okay.
What did I say? Explain it to them.
Wait,
What does
say,
it?
say it again.
I am first cousin, twice removed with Carlos Schultz. Don't look at me, look at them, because you are right now, you are the speaker. You have to explain to them.
Wait, first cousin,
Twice removed,
twice removed.
yes,
What comes
with,
after that?
with Carlos Schultz. That's it.
Oh, has to do something with your grandmother.
Very good.
Good.
Okay, come on. Excellent. Come here, Brianna. Very good. Excellent. Okay. Now, let's reach the other ones.
Okay, okay,
Fair enough?
okay.
Let's pretend that Brianna and Sami are first cousins. Our children will be
My children would be
No.
your. Okay.
Okay, we are first cousins. Okay, follow me. Okay, we are first cousins. Our children will be
Second cousins.
correct. Our grandchildren will be
Third cousins.
correct.
Okay.
However, what will your child be with me, or my child be with you?
First removed.
Correct. Okay. Her entire line will always be first cousin with me. My entire line will always be first cousin with Brianna. However, okay, we instead of using how many generations below, we use removed. So when I said first cousin twice removed, it's like Brianna said correctly, my grandmother and Carlos Schanzer were first cousins. Let's find out who Carlos Schanzer was. Have you heard of Hillary Clinton? What was her official title when she worked in the Obama administration? Very good. What do you call secretary, especially secretary of state in Europe or in Australia? It does not have, the secretary is used only in the United States. Minister and secretary of state is? Foreign minister.
Foreign minister, yep.
Carlos Schanzer was the foreign minister of which country? Take a look.
Italy.
Italy. What year?
1922.
And he was his successor. Who was he?
Succeeded.
Say it again?
Succeeded.
Yeah, but how do you pronounce it? Let me hear.
Mussolini.
Correct. You know who Benito Mussolini was?
No.
Benito Mussolini was the dictator of Italy who allied himself with Hitler. Brianna, you did exceptionally good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, whether you know it or not, the generation is 25 years. What happened in 11 years when the Jews had full equal rights in Italy from 22 until Hitler came to power in 1933, that the Jews became the scapegoats. In 1914, Jews fought in World War I for Germany. Germany was the most enlightened country in the world. What happened in 19 years? Okay, the Jews became the scapegoats. In World War I, Germany lost the war. And I'm assuming that you heard or you learned about the Treaty of Versailles. It was extremely difficult on the German people. They had to return all the occupied land. They had to demilitarize, could not have a strong military army, and they had to pay reparations. To understand what it did to the German people, besides losing their national pride, is in 1917, $1 American was worth 4 German marks. 10 years later, 1927, 6 years before Hitler came to power, $1 American was worth 4 billion, 200 million German marks. People could not afford to buy anything. They were desperate. In a desperate time, they were willing to listen. And anybody is willing to listen to anybody that comes with a solution. Hitler could not deny the fact that Germany lost the war. So they had to find an enemy from within. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, German people, I know why you're suffering. The German army did not lose the war. We were betrayed and stabbed in the back. By whom? They came second. The first were the communists. Everybody was afraid of the communists. To give an example, every free country. There was here in the United States in Iran, I don't know if you heard of it, Joseph McCarthy. The war in Korea, in Vietnam, today against the North Koreans. We are constantly fighting the Soviets, the communists, okay, China. the Jews were hated. So he found the enemy from within and said, we were betrayed and stabbed in the back by the communists and by the Jews. The Jews were hated, the communists were feared. As a matter of fact, when the Germans, when the Nazis built the first concentration camp in Dachau, they did not go after the Jews, they went after their political enemies, primarily after the communists. And it so happened that most of the communists, almost completely all of the communists, were Jews. Until the Kristallnacht, the Jews were allowed to leave. A lot of them considered themselves Germans, did not want to leave. And most of the people, if they were able to leave or they wanted to leave, they went, most of them went to Poland. I'll tell you more about it. After Kristallnacht, only approximately 200,000 remained in Germany itself. And the Nazis did not want at the beginning to kill the Jews. All they wanted to have is a Germany free of Jews. When did they come up with the idea, with a final solution, to annihilate an entire group of people, the Jewish people? And that happened in 1941. Before I'm going to explain this to you with the final solution, I have to explain to you something else. When they had to pay reparations to other countries, and it caused that inflation, they realized that the mentally and physically ill are a financial burden on the state. So they institutionalized them in a different country, and they gassed them. And they did not call it gassing, they called it euthanasia, they called it mercy killing. A German priest found out about it, made it public in Germany, and the gassing stopped. But not before. They gassed over 200,000 mentally and physically ill Germans, including World War I heroes, and because they lost their limbs, deep wounds, arms, legs, they became quote-unquote unproductive, a burden on the state, financial burden on the state, and they were gassed. Now, like I told you in the beginning, the Germans wanted to have a Germany free of Jews. Like I told you before, most of the Jews, when they were able to leave, and they wanted to leave, most of them went to Poland. And when Poland became part of the Greater Germany, the Nazis found the problem. 3.3 million Jews. What the hell do you do with them? This is part of the Greater Germany. You don't want to have Jews in your own country. What the hell do you do with them? Now, in the beginning, when they attacked the former Soviet Union, they murdered Soviets, Russians, Jews by bullets. And they had mass graves. If you don't know what a mass grave is you have a grave where you have many people buried and they do not have a name. They killed by bullets, they murdered by bullets 1.5 million Jews in Ukraine. But now when they came out in 41 with the idea of annihilating a group of people, the Jewish people, they realized that killing them by bullets is not fast enough, not efficient enough. And that's when they remembered euthanasia, when they guessed mentally, physically ill, people. And they decided to build 6 death camps. And please repeat after me the name of the 6 death camps. Auschwitz-Birkenau, Treblinka, Belzec, Sobibor, Chelmno, Maidan. Okay, so these were the only death camps. So I wanted to realize there were 3 types of camps. There was the concentration camp, exactly what the word implies. You concentrate people in the area before you decide what to do with them. The labor camp, I talked to you about it, and the death camps. since I was subjected to medical experiments, I decided I want to get compensated. To be able to be compensated, not only in Germany, the Germans, if they could get away with it, did not want to pay. You have to know one or to have one of three things. You need to know what they did to you, or you have to have documents, or you have to have witnesses. And when I applied, this is what I wrote. Were you subjected to medical experiments under the Nazi regime? Yes. Transnistria, Ukraine, Mogilev, 1941, 1941. And here is my proof. My parents told me that I was subjected to Nazi medical experimentation, but did not go into specific. Obviously, the doctors did not come to my parents and tell me this is what they did to your son. My parents did not know, I do not know. Strike one. Strike two, I don't have any documents. I lost them all of them when I became homeless. All I know is that I suffered all my life from neck, head, and back problems. The severity was so great that I had days and weeks that I could not sit, lay down, or walk. Not all at the same time. My headaches were so severe that I was crying from pain, and I'm coming from a generation that was not allowed to cry. You will not see it on my face that I am in constant pain. It's not as bad as it was before, and part of the reason is because I have a high pain threshold. To understand how much pain I can tolerate, I went to a dentist, gave me 4 injections, did not numb me. He wanted to reschedule my appointment, and I said, you don't have to. He drilled on me, very large cavity, without anesthesia. Boy, is it painful when it touches the nerve. But I cannot scream for whatever reason is. When he touched the nerve, I lifted my finger, he knew to stop, I lowered it, he knew you can go further. So I wanted to understand, why you don't see it on my face, although I am in constant pain. Okay. My parents and the other witnesses are all gone. Therefore, I hope that this info will suffice. So here it is. I have no proof. I don't know what they did to me. I have no documents. I have no witnesses. So I said here, therefore, I hope that this info will suffice, and I did it just for me to know that I sent it out, I applied, did not expect an answer, certainly did not expect to get paid. That was in February 8, 2002. To my surprise and my shock, not only did I get an answer, but I got paid. I got an answer 2 years later, January 26, 2004, and I got a single payment of 2,500 German marks. At that time, it was much stronger than the dollar, so it came out to $5,348.36. Financially, it did not make a huge difference in my life, and very few people have this letter. But we will come back to this particular letter. But there are 2 paragraphs that are important to me. Based on the information and evidence you provided. What evidence? Your eligibility has been established as a victim of medical experiments. It was not based on what I said, it was based on their records. They kept exceptionally good records. I'll give an example of keeping records. Has any one of you ever taken a very, very cold shower? Yes. Would you do it every single day? What the Nazis did, I'll give you an example of a medical experiment. They used to take people, please pay attention, I did not use the word Jews, and they put them in freezing water, timed it, and recorded how long it took for that person to freeze to death. They did it for good reason, and that's, you may be surprised. Just like Napoleon lost the war when he got caught in the bitter cold of the Russian winter, the Nazis, the Germans, had such success in Europe that within 1 week, every country surrendered. When they attacked the former Soviet Union, they were convinced the Russians would surrender. They did not. And they got caught in the bitter cold of the Russian winter without having the proper clothing. That's why they did the experiments. Now, I am not medical experiments, because they do it today. The problems with the medical experiments that the Nazis did is that they did it in human beings and in inhumane ways. Okay? So again, I'm stating, we learned a lot. Medication today that saves lives. We do it because we do medical experiments, but it's done in guinea pigs, animals, not human beings. The second paragraph. So remember, they kept very good records. They recorded them. When they wanted to open up, they were going to annihilate the Jewish people, they were going to open up a museum. They were going to call the museum of the extinct race. Okay, to open up a museum, you have to have artifacts. You have to have movies, and everything has to be recorded. Besides that, it's also part of the German culture to keep very good records. Something that maybe some of you do not know, in the trial of Nuremberg, the criminals, they said, well, we followed the law. And technically they were correct. Because when they wanted to, for instance, to go after the homosexuals, they enacted the law. Okay, they wanted to go after the mentally and physically ill. Okay, it's a law. But what very few people know is that they would have not been punished. They would have refused to be a commander, let's assume, of a concentration camp or of a death camp, if they would have refused, okay, to murder people. It was a choice that they made. Very few people know that this was their choice. I'll give you an example that I did not tell the other groups, but you may be interested. How did they teach the SS, okay, to be obedient and not to death, but be so cruel? If you went to SS officers' school, you were given a dog, and you were told, you will treat that dog as your own family. When it came graduation time, they were told, kill the dog. If you did not kill the dog, you would not graduate. These were the most intelligent, some of the most intelligent, highly skilled people, went through very difficult, okay, psychological tests to be admitted in the SS. It was the SS was the most feared secret police. Here is another example, which is very important, and we'll refer to it a little bit further. Fully aware that no amount of money can compensate you for the severe injustices that you suffer, we do hope that you will regard this pain as a symbolic acknowledgement of this injustice. The German government recognizes, admits that they did medical experiments in Ukraine, and that I was one of them. Is that clear? I want you to realize, because we'll come there, this is very, very important, and few people have this. Last year, I was in Bayonne, New Jersey, made a presentation to 735 students. A reporter was there, and he wrote a beautiful article without giving too many details, basically a few quotes praising the superintendent, the school, the teacher for inviting me, and also a few quotes that the students have made. I don't know if you know it or not, but the headquarters of KKK is in Trenton, New Jersey. They keep a low profile. And the neo-Nazis are very strong in New Jersey. They took this article in the Jersey Journal, word by word, posted it on the internet. It made me the symbol of being a liar and a symbol that the Holocaust has never I wanted to teach you something else. Whatever happens to you, take something negative and turn it into positive. I will admit I was angry upset for about 3 days. However, I decided to use it against them. Before I go and explain to you about this particular piece of garbage on the internet, I want to teach you something about the Holocaust deniers. The Holocaust deniers use half-truths. A half-truth is they tell the truth, but they want you to reach the wrong conclusion. And they say there were no gas chambers in the concentration camps. Based on that, they wanted to reach the conclusion that there were no gas chambers at all, that the Jews made it up just to get paid. It's a hoax. And the funny part is they are correct. There were no gas chambers in the concentration camps. They were only in the death camps. By substituting the word death with concentration, that's what I call half-truth. The neo-Nazis, if you don't know what the neo-Nazi is, it's people of today that believe in the Nazi ideology. Okay? The neo-Nazis use the same thing. Jew Holocaust, hoax, Jew Holocaust, claims Nazi medical experiments he can't remember. An innuendo. The fact that I don't remember does not mean that I'm a liar. Still cause them pain. Does not prove that I'm a liar, that I was not subjected to medical experiments. Unlike the millions of other Jew Holocausters, he somehow was not experimented by Joseph Mengele. Another innuendo that the only doctor that performed medical experiments was Joseph Mengele. Joseph Mengele was not the only one. He was never in Ukraine. He performed experiments only on twins, only in Auschwitz. In some of the experiments, he actually supervised. But here, according to them, if you don't read it properly, it sounds that he was the only one that performed medical experiments. I don't know if you saw it or not. You see what it says, Hollyoaks. Hollywood. Make believe. Hoax. So what did they do? They right here. This is another case where these medical experiments were only real in his mind. Make believe, you know. And then they say, this Jew is nothing but a live rat. When you portray a person or a group of people as animals, you are actually dehumanizing them. And the only way you can help somebody is by dehumanizing them. As a matter of fact, we have here a teacher, I think you know her, Mrs. Vineyard. She's from Ireland. When the Irish came here at the beginning, whether you know it or not, they were also dehumanized. They were portrayed as monkeys. The Nazis also portrayed the Afro-Americans as monkeys. Now, these Jews need to be banned from speaking to students. Instead, they need to be locked up. What happened to the freedom of speech? They can promote hatred. I am not allowed to speak. But, believe it or not, if you do not know my story, you do not know here that the Germans acknowledged the medical experiments in Ukraine, that I got paid. Okay? You would say, you know something? There is something to it. You may tend to believe. Therefore, what I'm trying to teach you is when you go to the internet, okay, be very careful what you read. Read it carefully. Okay? And at the same time, please make sure that you do the research. not everything that they do. For instance, like ISIS today, when they are recruiting a lot of people to do what they do, okay, is they also use it through the internet. They do it, through the internet, social media, by playing games and different things, to try to desensitize them against murder. I also wanted to be aware of something. The ISIS, the suicide bombers and whatever they do, beheading and all of this, they are not simple criminals. Like the Germans were not simple criminals. They believe in ideology. And this is very important for you to remember. There's much more to talk. I will conclude with it with one thing. I would hope, I would like for you to be the best that you can be at all times, not sometimes. I want to believe in yourself because I believe in yourself. I believe in you, that you, learning from us, will make it a better world for yourselves, your children and grandchildren. And at the same time, don't you ever lose hope, don't ever give up hope. And remember, tomorrow is a new day, a new beginning. And my last hope is that when my generation are gone, that you will carry the torch for us and make sure that those atrocities are not happening again. Enough is enough.